So if you found this video, then you're probably thinking about one thing. That this is the year to go all in. The year to finally stop making excuses and to finally take action. To set down all the distractions and commit to a period of intense focus and discipline. I think every single one of us have dreams and aspirations that we want to achieve, but for some reason or another, whether that be fear of failure or fear of being judged, haven't committed to them just yet. Only doing what everyone else is doing and never getting out of line because we were taught that this is the safest route possible. But in doing so, we are bottling our inner passions and desires, never truly living the life that we were blessed with. The one mistake that I think we all make is that we think that we have an endless amount of time, that this window of opportunity will always be here. But the more and more that you wait, the more that you put those things off, that window of opportunity is only getting smaller and harder to achieve. So that is why in today's video, I want to share with you 5 valuable lessons on why you need to take action now. Now, something that I think is one of the most common reasons why most people don't ever start something is because they're too scared of failing. The reality is that you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, you might look stupid sometimes, and you might even cringe at yourself. But you have to understand that that is normal, and any great individual that you've ever looked up to, any great artist, athlete, or businessman, at one point were terrible at their craft, and at one point had terrible failures and setbacks. When I first started making videos, it wasn't like I was instantly making incredible videos with amazing storytelling, color grading, sound design, and editing. Like everyone else, when I first picked up a camera, I made terrible and embarrassing videos. It was a really bumpy process, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. But in that process of making those 100 crappy videos, those 100 repetitions that I did, and those 100 mistakes that I made, I was able to learn from them, and it gave me a clear direction of what I needed to work on and how I could get better. What you need to do is, instead of looking at your failures as these monumental defeats, look at them as learning lessons and learn how to embrace your failures as a natural process. Learn how to turn your failures into an opportunity. Every time you fail or fall down, that is an opportunity to learn from your mistakes, to learn where your weaknesses lie so that you can improve upon them. There's a saying that goes, quantity leads to quality, and I think that can be applied to most things. By just doing something frequently and putting in the repetitions, no matter the outcome or the results, it will give you real-world experience and give you a path on how to get better. So don't get hung up on failing or trying to create something perfect. The most important thing that you need to do is to just start the process and embrace failure. Now, something that I think all entrepreneurs and creatives should adopt is something called thinking like an athlete. Whatever your goal is that you're trying to accomplish, I think that you should see it as a sport. And in order to perform at the highest level in that sport and sustain it, you'll need to also be a master of rest and recovery. I think we've all heard stories about that one hustler who works so hard that they grind themselves down that they end up trading their health in the process. But I think that's really bad advice because eventually it will lead to burnout, brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, and maybe even depression. And at the end of the day, it will make you perform worse. You'll probably be putting out crappier work and overall just slowing down your entire progression. You might think that rest and recovery will just slow you down, but in fact, if you do it correctly, it will multiply your work output. Health is wealth, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how successful you are if you don't have any health to enjoy it. So that is why you need to think like an athlete. Not only do athletes focus heavily on their sport of choice, but they also are extremely mindful of their diet, sleep, and recovery in order to perform to the best of their capabilities and sustain it. When it comes down to it, you are the engine, the powerhouse that is performing everything. If you're run down and barely functioning, if you aren't sleeping properly, if you aren't eating healthy, if you aren't getting outside and getting sunlight and socializing, that will eventually just weigh you down. You're not going to be able to think as clearly and ultimately hinder your chances of actually succeeding at your goals. Personally, for me, by focusing on my own health and recovery, it allowed me to create more meaningful work, endure more stress and load. I felt more creative throughout the day and even allowed me to work longer hours without burnout. With sleep probably having the biggest impact on my performance and mood, so that's why I try my best to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night and try my best to practice good sleep hygiene. For diet, it's pretty simple. I mostly just consume whole foods, lots of protein, and really try my best to cut down on all the sugar and processed foods. As for exercise, I do weight training and Muay Thai about 4 to 5 days out of the week in order to stay active, and then I regularly use sauna so that I can recover faster and all the other physical and mental benefits that come along with regular sauna use. If you can dial in these other aspects of your life, not just the work, but the mental and physical aspect as well, I promise you'll be able to work much harder, you'll feel more sharper, and you'll be able to put out more amazing work. And don't get me wrong, I think that there will be seasons where you really will have to step into overdrive, and it can be okay to go into this hustle mode for the short term, depending on how important your task or deadline is. But if you're in it for the long run and you want to stay consistent for many years, which usually developing a hard skill or a business will usually take, then you need to learn how to rest and recover at a high level in order to match your high output. Now, this is something that I've been noticing around me more and more of, and even for myself. And that is that it's so much more harder to sit still and stay focused on your tasks. I think that there are more distractions than ever before constantly competing for our attention. The level of stimulation that we are bombarded with every single day with our phones, social media, sugary foods, video games, drugs, alcohol, and adult entertainment has never been higher than ever before. And with that, it's never had a stronger grip around our attention. There is a really amazing book called Dopamine Nation: Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence by Anna Lemke, and she believes that because of all this easy access to indulging in so many highly rewarding things, we have never been more depressed, more anxious, and more addicted than ever before. Some of you guys might not realize this, but many of these things are scientifically and purposely designed to get you addicted to keep coming back, robbing you of your time, robbing you of your attention, and most importantly, robbing you of your ability to be able to sit still and do the not so stimulating things that are extremely important for you, like working on that business, writing up that script, editing that video, or reading that book. And no matter how hard you sit down and force yourself to make some meaningful progress for that big goal that you've been putting off for so long, you can't seem to get yourself to really get started and make any meaningful progress. Eventually you give up and default back into doom scrolling, playing video games, binge watching that Netflix show, and even though you promised yourself that you would finally get some work done today, you've just ended up wasting another day, and the cycle keeps on repeating itself day in and day out. The simple things like writing, reading, studying, and working on your goals doesn't seem to bring you as much joy as it used to. And in comparison, it doesn't really hit the same as playing a game of Call of Duty or watching a Netflix show or scrolling endlessly on TikTok and Instagram. Nowadays, I think that our brains are so addicted and conditioned for instant gratification and short-term rewards that it's extremely hard to chase after long-term goals that often take years to accomplish. And this has a really close relationship with our dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter responsible for our level of motivation, desire, and our willingness to push through effort. And when we are doing all these highly stimulating things, we are constantly spiking our dopamine, and if we overdo it, we end up depleting our dopamine reserves, which is why it might feel so hard to chase after long-term rewards. But the good thing is that if you stay away from these overstimulating things long enough, you can actually allow your body to restore its dopamine levels. And once you're able to restore your dopamine levels back to baseline, the not so stimulating things that you know that you need to be doing will be much more pleasurable again, and your desire and motivation to actually complete them will be back to normal. Which is why I recommend going on something called a dopamine fast, where you abstain from all the high stimulating things for a certain period of time in order to restore your dopamine levels. I recently went on a 7-day dopamine fast, and I documented my entire experience, which will be a video out shortly on this channel. But all I can say now is that it is a really great way to reset and recalibrate yourself in order to get your brain motivated back into the things that truly matter.
Those times when you get up early and you work hard, those times when you stay up late and you work hard, that is actually the dream. It's not the destination, it's the journey.
Now, I think one of the most important things that will lead you to your goal is learning how to enjoy the journey, learning how to enjoy the process. I think that if you only fixate yourself on that particular goal or number, doing the things necessary in order to achieve that goal will feel extremely hard and will require a lot of motivation and effort out of you. So rather than attaching yourself to a certain goal or a certain destination, learn how to enjoy the day-to-day process, the journey. For example, if you're trying to get in shape and build the dream body that you've always wanted, but you hate working out with a passion and only love the thought of having a nice physique, it's going to be really hard for you to keep pushing through and showing up consistently. But if you can learn to enjoy working out, doing those bench presses, doing those deadlifts, and doing those long jogs, naturally that nice physique will just be a product of your work, and you'll be much more likely to actually attain your goal. If you're trying to become a successful content creator, don't fixate yourself on the money or the amount of subscribers. Rather, obsess over the art of writing that script or editing that video or filming that cinematic sequence. Focus on the actual process of creating those videos, and the end result will be you attaining that money or those amount of subscribers. If you can enjoy the process rather than the goal, these are the things that will just eventually lead you to your goals in the long term. Remember that it is the journey, not the destination. Now, when things get hard, and believe me, things will, I always put my life into perspective and practice gratitude. No matter what you might be going through, if you spill some coffee on yourself, your friend said something mean to you, you got rejected at a job interview, anytime things get rough, I always put my life into perspective and I remind myself that somewhere else, there are millions, if not billions of other people who are barely scraping by, who would do absolutely anything in the world to have even a life close to mine.
An alarming study on cancer and young people.
Bracing for food shortages as the war in Ukraine. He estimates a third of all children under 5 in North Korea are severely malnourished.
The fact that I'm healthy, the fact that I have a roof over my head, the fact that I even have the ability to chase after something that I'm passionate about isn't something to be taken lightly or to be taken for granted. When you really put your life into perspective, when you really stop to think about it for a second, and I mean really do that, you'll never want to waste another day in your life. The fact that you even clicked on this video means that you're able to go all in on something, or at least thinking about it, and in my opinion, that is already much more fortunate than the majority of most of the population who could never even fathom doing something like that. I know that I won't be this young forever, and I know I won't have as much energy as I do now. I know that at some point I might not even be able to push as hard as I can right now. So that is why I need to do as much as I can now. Seneca once said that it's not that we have a short amount of time in life, but that we just waste a lot of it. I want to remind you that you are more than capable of achieving whatever it is that you're chasing if you put your heart and mind to it. And I hope this video motivates you to finally take that leap of faith and to go all in on something that you care about.